Well, hey there, and how in the World Wide Web are you? I'm Kevin Kolbe, and I'm so glad you're here today. And I'm very excited to be doing this interview. This is a guy that I met. I'm actually trying to remember how I met John. I think it was actually through a butt dial. I'm not sure. But I'm going to be talking with John Finch from The Father Effect. And first of all, what an absolutely amazing story he has. I'm going to drop in comments here. If somebody's got a question or something like that, feel free to pop it in. Um, but John has an amazing story, an amazing ministry, and started a nonprofit. And I think I want to make sure you get to know John and find out more about his story to inspire you to maybe share your gifts and things like that. And as always, I would love it if you want to subscribe to the channel and his channel too, The Father Effect. I'm going to show you a little bit about that in a minute. This channel is all about giving you the resources to help you share your gifts and make an impact in the world with online video. That's why I ask you to subscribe. Hope to do more of these. And then we're also going to tell you about a little project we're working on that will debut tomorrow. So let's get into it. John Finch, how are you, buddy?
What's up, Mr. Colby?
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is John Finch. His channel is, and his ministry and his nonprofit is called The Father Effect. John, for those of you that may not know a lot about you and what you do, just tell us about you.
So I am coming up on 25 years of being married. I got three daughters, 21, 19, and 14. And I live in God's country, Dallas, Texas.
You had to throw the God's country thing in, didn't you?
I did. I have to do it every time.
You know, this could be a short interview. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you a Dallas Cowboys fan?
You know what? Honestly, I'm not like a fanatic, any kind of sports, but, and
Okay, we'll
especially
take that
this
as a
year.
no. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't get the memo that they were America's team. I think I was on vacation that day. But John, tell us a little bit about the Father Effect and how that all started.
Sure. So it came out of my own story, the personal struggle, if you will, of growing up without a dad. My dad committed suicide when I was 11. And so for about 30 years, I just wandered, lost through this world and without a dad and just struggled to find my way. And it literally was about 10 years ago when I was 41 years old that God just really took me to a place of brokenness. And it was a place he had to take me to get my attention because I was having too much fun running from him. And it was in that moment that literally my life took a different direction, and it was a real catalyst for this change in me and leading me in this journey towards finding forgiveness for my dad, which is what radically changed my life as a man, husband, and father.
So at some point in your life, your career, you decided to document this, to make a documentary, which, by the way, if you haven't seen The Father Effect, I call it a documentary, movie, either way. There is a link down in the description, both to John's channel, The Father Effect with John Finch, and then also to the movie, which not too long ago, John graciously, and I think moved, decided to make it free. But when in your story did you decide, hey, I need to make a documentary and a movie about this to share with others?
It was interesting. Once I found forgiveness for my dad, and it changed my life in every way imaginable, I began sharing my story. And as I talked to other people, it became very apparent that like everybody had a story and everybody had some kind of story about their father in most cases, good, bad, or indifferent. But the more I began to share my story, the more I realized, man, we've got to share other people's stories too, because this was an epidemic in the fatherlessness and an absent father space, if you will, that is so much bigger than I ever imagined. And so, as I began to talk to people, I mean, literally, like every single person I talked to had this crazy story
Mm.
about their dad and forgiving him, and what a life-changing experience it was. So I was just like, hey, we've got to put this in video because I'm not a reader. No, that's probably not a stretch for you to imagine I'm not really a big reader
Yeah.
because you know me so well. But literally, it was in a moment of God just impressing upon me, dude, we got to make a movie. We've got to put this in video, and because more men, I think, will watch it if we do it. And there began the journey.
So now, again, John and I have known each other for, I don't know, several years. And I think you've interviewed me far more than I've had the opportunity to interview you. In fact, I was on your channel Monday night, and I, appreciate that. I got to talk about a little bit about my life and having kids and one with special needs. So I appreciate that. If you want to watch that interview, I tell you what, I'll put a link to that down in the description too. We'll just do a lot of love. We'll do a lot of link love here, right? When you
Yes.
started, when you decided, hey, I'm gonna make a movie about this, how much video production experience did you have?
Zero.
Now,
Yeah.
here's the reason I'm asking this, not to rag on you, but for anybody watching this, whether you've got a nonprofit or a business or a product you're trying to get out there, and you're afraid, well, I don't have the right gear, the excuses we always hear. I don't have the experience. That's why I'm asking John this question. So John decided to do a documentary. At that point, I'm assuming you didn't even know how long it would be. You just knew there was a story there to be told. You
Yep.
had zero video production. So how did you even start and get into that?
Honestly, I just had reached out to a couple of people that I admire, and they really were kind of mentoring me, and told them, I said, man, I think God's leading me to make a movie. And they just said, hey, man, look at audio, look at lighting, couple of basic things, get those things figured out, go start just filming, go start shooting some video. And that's really what I did. I was like, okay. I mean, I had, it was kind of one of those deals. I didn't know what rules to break because I wasn't in the quote unquote industry or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just, kind of plowed my own path. And I did have we were just blessed with some good people to come alongside us, and God opened the door for us to interview some fascinating people, best-selling authors to just ordinary people with extraordinary stories. And it was such a God thing. It all came together, and it was all his doing.
So now you also interviewed the author who wrote Wild at Heart.
John Eldridge.
Now, how did you know him, or did you just reach out and say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. You want to be a part of it, or what?" How did that come down?
So that's an interesting story. I found out after the fact. I had put him on my wish list, and literally took me about a year. I mean, literally took me a year to get him, and I stayed after him. Long story short, come to find out, one of the mentors I had that I just spoke about, who was kind of speaking encouragement in life into my life, he told me after the fact that Eldridge's agent and his agent were friends. And his agent had reached out to my friend's agent just by chance, that maybe he knew me and was going to see how legit I was. And so it's really weird because I
Wow.
didn't even realize this till like a year or so after the interview, how it all came together. But literally, yeah, I stayed after him. Literally, I think it was exactly a year from the time I first reached out to his assistant to when he finally agreed to actually do the interview.
Wow. Wow. So, and there's a ton of people you interview, and I think, again, if you haven't seen it, link in the description. Please take the time to watch it. John is making it free, which is amazing because he is a nonprofit. Um, and there's a ton of people in there. I mean, you even interviewed a couple of convicts, felons, talking about their story. And the funny thing is I was watching it. I'm sitting there, of course, being a man and a dad, and I know you've had a lot of projects that I feel like are more focused to us men who are also dads. But there are a lot of women in there sharing their story, and and I've got a daughter, you've got daughters, I've got two sons. You don't have to just have sons though to get something out of the father effect, correct?
Right. Actually, Kevin, I get more women that reach out to me than
Mm.
men for a couple of different reasons. It's just the way we're wired. Women are so much more willing and open to sharing their feelings and emotions and stuff. Guys are less because of a pride issue, and
Mm.
that's a whole nother video discussion. So we all have our stuff, but it's just one of those things where the documentary, it's called The Father Effect, but it's for everyone. It's for both men and women, and the women a lot of times identify because they think about their own relationship with their father, and we explore that quite a bit with the daddy-daughter relationship.
Mm.
And then they're also thinking about how their husband's relationship with their kids is impacting them and their family. So it's for both men and women.
Now, when did the father effect the movie come out?
I think it was go That's a great question. I think it's 4 years ago coming up December.
And did you start your I want to talk about YouTube and your journey there in social media, but were you already on social media and YouTube and platforms before you started the documentary, or did that kind of come hand in hand or later? How did that work?
It was just one of those weird things. I'd gotten on social media years ago. Um, Facebook probably the longest.
Hmm.
I don't know how long it's been up. It's been over 10 years, I think. And then Twitter probably 6, 7, 8 years, not long after Facebook. And then piddling around with Instagram. YouTube, I just looked the other day. I think we've been on there literally since we started the ministry in 2010. So we've been on there about 11 years, but it was just, hey, here's a video platform thingy that I'm going to throw some video clips up of. That it just gave me an outlet, kind of almost a library of just video clips from the movie, and that's kind of how I treated it. I didn't do anything else other than just throw clips up.
Yeah, I was just as you were talking, I was going to it, and it's I think it's interesting that in this day and you've got a website as well.
Yes.
But so let's say you did it about 4 years ago, and when a few years ago I was doing some teaching at a local creative arts college. I don't know why I do that. Um, and I kept telling the students, there's never been a better time to be a content creator. And I think you're proving that because years ago, not that long ago, if you had an idea for a documentary, let's say like you did, you'd either have to raise a ton of cash or you'd take it to Sundance or all these other places. Or if you had an idea for a show or a series or something like that, if ABC and NBC and CBS didn't want it, or actually probably the companies behind them, you were just screwed. It's like, oh, well, they don't want it. I don't have a place to do it. Well, now, and this is what I told the students is, if nobody wants what you're creating, publish it yourself. Get a website, which I believe in, but then, start a YouTube channel and start putting it out there. So, were you ever deterred by, like, I don't know where to take this and the distribution, or was it like, no, I'm being called by God to make this, my story needs to be told, I need to affect other people, and I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens? I mean, which road did you ever go down, the distribution path, or how did that work?
Kevin, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was deterred several times.
Mm.
I mean, there were so many times I wanted to quit, right? And it's just that attack from the enemy of not wanting me to do it. And God would just continue to show up. His hand would just be in it time and time and time again. And it took us 5 years to make the movie after
Wow.
several just major hiccups and
Mm-hmm.
roadblocks and everything else. And literally it was just like, okay, Lord, I don't have a clue what I'm doing in this space. I don't know anything about this space. Just show me the way. And so there was never any kind of really master plan
Mm,
other than I thought, well, man, if we can just get as many eyes on this thing as possible and let God do his thing, that's what it's all about. And so I never even explored the Netflix or Amazons or any of
well,
those guys
yeah,
of the world. I talked with a couple of different people who came to me and said, hey, you ought to think about this, that, or the other. But literally, it was just before Father's Day this year that God was just working on me and just like, man, just let me have this thing. Let's put it out there for free and let me do my thing. And so that's when we released it on YouTube for free. And man, it's so cool to hear the stories and testimonies that are coming through as a result now of so many other people being able to see it and a $10 not being some
yeah,
kind of obstacle for them not being
yeah.
able to.
Yeah, I remember you and I talking a lot about, releasing it for free or not. And then you finally was like, yep, I'm doing it. So now one of the things that I want to show this as we're talking about is that you've also, I mean, the Father Effect is not just in English, but you've started releasing clips and videos and interviews in other languages too on YouTube as well, right? So what was kind of the thinking behind that?
So what had happened was we had our 15-minute film that just a quick background. We made the 15-minute short film as a catalyst really to raise money to get the full-length film done, completed. It didn't quite go as we had planned or thought. But the 15-minute film, it's still to this day, that's been out probably 7 or 8 years now. The
Mm,
15-minute film was something God continues to use to this day to change people's lives, and it's just crazy, the stories just from that 15-minute little film. And so we've begun to take that 15-minute film and translate it into other languages. My goal is to get it translated into the top 100 languages in the world and release each video as its own separate video as we go to promote that. And again, just okay, Lord, here's what we're doing. Just do your thing. And so that's really the prayer and behind that particular work. Whether there's a strategy to it or not, I have no idea. I think we talked a little bit about that, and we got the short film translated into many languages, but it's all under one video, and people have to know how to do the closed captions and figure all that out. And I just think the more and more I thought about it, people don't know how to do that. So all those the 15-minute film in all the different languages is hidden and nobody knows how to access those. So that's why we decided, well, let's just take each one and release them with their own language as a separate release in that language.
yeah, and that's phenomenal. And you know, again, folks that are watching this that don't know John and everything like that, I've had the privilege of getting to talk to John, and he's like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And one of the things that I wanted to share, and something that you had actually approached me about, I believe, is that we've been working on a project. I don't want to make it sound super secret, but in terms of working with your YouTube channel and doing that. So tell me about growing your YouTube channel, and what I'm going to say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, going a little bit more all in on YouTube. So tell me about that.
So, I had been ignoring this platform for the last 10 years since we launched it. And again, it was kind of just, oh, there's this thing called YouTube, and then you put video clips up. Oh, okay, great. So I was just literally releasing video clips in the editing process for the last, 10 years. We've been throw a few video clips up, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we started talking probably about 6 months or so ago. And the more I talked to you, the more I got to thinking about what you were saying and about starting to really pay attention to YouTube because it just makes sense. Now I'm just kicking myself going, you knucklehead, if you would have just did this years ago, it's one of those stories. But a couple of months ago, I think we had talked and I said, okay, I'm all in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's the second largest search engine behind Google. Google owns them. It just makes sense. And
Yeah.
so literally that's when I started reaching out to you more for help, and you started giving me some wise advice, and hence here we are.
Yeah, one of the things that we wanted to share. So, starting tomorrow, every Wednesday over the next several weeks, I'm going to be releasing a video on this channel. And so, what happened is John and I did, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of just kind of coaching video calls where we would kind of break down different sections of his YouTube channel, everything from like the about page to descriptions, even things to like just upload descriptions and upload things that save you time, and playlist and comments and stuff like that. And here's the thing. I mean, there's tons of YouTube experts and gurus and specialists out there. And John and I never got into this like, well, let me show you the 5 things you can do to explode your channel. Some of them were just like basic things like changing his cover art, or some of the things we talked about. And I'll be honest, I can't remember, because there's so much we did together. We're not going to show everything, but again, we'll start dropping the videos every Wednesday on this YouTube channel, and and they're going to be, so we're like, there'll be one on, I think, well, we're starting it with either channel defaults, like how to set your channel up, because there's a lot of things in there when people get on YouTube, and this may apply to you. When you get on YouTube, you just don't know there's some things in there that you should do or can do. And that's where John and I went to this. And then, it was like, well, rather than put this behind a paywall, let's just share it. If it helps people get started on YouTube and things like that. But I remember one of the early things we talked about was the fact that your YouTube channel was so movie centric, but you had kind of started creating content that went beyond the movie. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that was an aha moment for you. Like, oh yeah, it needs to be more than just the movie.
Yeah, it's a huge pivot for me, and I'm still working through that, right? Because instead of me just being able to edit, which I enjoy doing, the creative process is what I love, but instead of just editing and throwing a bunch of clips up, now to think about title descriptions, the really looking and researching before I push play and record, and thinking in terms of how people search on YouTube, which for me personally, it's been a process, because instead of me just throwing up a clip about whatever
Right.
fatherlessness or the father wound or whatever, now I got to think, okay, how would people search for that term? And the things, it seems, you look at it after the fact and you go, wow, that is genius. It's so simple, but yet I didn't know about it. And yet it could be a game changer in
Yeah.
so many different ways. And so it was those little bits of information that I was getting from you that I was going, that is really cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad we
And
talked.
and the funny thing is, if you, some of you guys watch the series as we drop them every week, and I hope you do, and I hope it helps you with your channel, and you can leave some comments and things like that too. We don't cover everything. And the sad part is, but this is YouTube. YouTube changes so much. They actually changed some things in the YouTube studio, which is the back end where you do all the magic. You upload and do that. They've changed it since we did the coaching session a few months ago. So it may look a little different here or there, but I think the information is still there. And I think John touches on a important point, is that you get so close to something, you think, well, everybody knows this. And again, a lot of the things I try and share with John, and hopefully can connect with you guys too, is that there are just some things in there that can make your channel look better. It will help you in SEO and some things like that. But one of John's big thing is that it's bigger than the movie. And in fact, if we go to it again, one of the things that we addressed was the name. It was originally, I think, just the Father Effect all run together, and I recommended, that he changes that. Well, we got into the discussion of, is it John Finch or is it the father effect? Because then that gets into a branding thing. And those are the type questions you have to answer for yourself. But I enjoyed going through the process. I'm going to enjoy sharing the videos and everything like that. But I want to ask you again about, and this is not to rag on Facebook, even though I don't think they care. I know YouTube doesn't care. My go-to platform to publish content, to teach from, to encourage from, is YouTube. And I, as much as I knew I should get serious about YouTube, I didn't really get serious about my channel until March or April this year, and that's when the growth started happening. And also some more enjoyment. I still love Facebook. I mean, Facebook and YouTube are probably my two go-to platforms. But I think you've done a lot on Facebook, and I think it's really changed YouTube. You've seen some of the interaction and some of the things you can do and how you can find stuff. I think it's really changed your opinion about YouTube and Facebook, right? About what should be your core go-to.
Yeah, I'm moving away from Facebook. I'm not gonna ever be away totally, but as far as my focus and concentration, it's YouTube now. I mean, I've committed to this thing, and I see the value and the rewards of it. It just makes sense, and it goes back to second largest search engine behind Google. Google owns them, and so if anybody's ever Googling you, or your brand or your company or whatever it is you do, all of that YouTube stuff's going to organically feed Google. So, I mean,
Yeah.
from that perspective, that right there, I think was the kicker for me, is just really that connecting the dots and realizing search is a mega industry, right?
Yeah.
And how people find you. And I've had several people tell me that we've reached out to and connected with on Twitter, man, I Googled you. It was because I Googled you that I found out, oh, this guy's, somewhat credible.
Well,
Somewhat.
I think that's a valid point, and actually not a valid point. I think it's an extremely important point that I hope you all take to heart and think about. I mean, when John started taking it to, like, let's do some other languages and let's reach out more and stuff like that. Again, I love Facebook, but Facebook is not search driven. It's hard to find stuff, and so when John is doing more interviews and more languages and stuff like that, and he said it, what you said it once or twice, when people are finding John and the Father Effect via Google and it's pointing to the YouTube channel, I mean, there's so many schools of thought about, I'm a YouTuber and I want to be a big YouTuber and subscribers and stuff like that, and it's good to unlock certain levels on YouTube, because you get, when you hit 100 subscribers, you can get a custom URL, custom domain name. When you have 1,000, then you get access to, I think it's the community tab and more, and it goes up and up and up. And then you get into the partner program and you can do ads and things. So there's a lot of benefits and ways to grow a business. But don't lose sight that the Father Effect is a nonprofit. It's a ministry, and how John is using that to reach more people on the biggest free platform. And so do you think that is like one of the reasons why now you are focused even more so on YouTube?
I do. And I mean, it just makes sense too, if you look at the data of the number of people that are continuing to jump on YouTube. The younger generation, I've got daughters, 21, 19, and 14. And it's like for the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years is when I've kind of noticed it, probably more so in the last few years. But that's all they're doing, Netflix and YouTube. And YouTube's free. So I see the potential for YouTube as being the platform for video, or at least one of the top ones from here on out. Is just, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer, and it's yes, 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 and because it's free, man, it just makes sense.
So what would be your advice to somebody that has like a story to tell, or somebody that has a nonprofit that needs more exposure, or a business? what would advice would you give to somebody who wants to be creating content?
It really is all about video. The way that we're able to connect, and all the statistics and the marketing gurus will all tell you it's about video. If you can do video, it's so much more engaging. The response, everything is significantly higher than anything else. And so just being able to start simple, like a lot of the things that you do, Kevin, and just using your iPhone,
Mm.
sharing your story, getting comfortable in front of the camera. It's so many people. It's just funny to me. It's painful for me to read and write. This is really showing my level of maturity and,
Yeah.
and wisdom
There's
and
too
everything
many
else.
words.
Yes, I only like the books with pictures. No, it's just painful, more so in the writing. I wrote a book. I got a co-author who helped me write a book. If it wasn't for him, it had never gotten done. But I would rather sit in front of a camera like this than write. So it's people are so afraid of it, but man, it's not that big a deal. If you know me, and you know me, Kevin, I'm the biggest knucklehead there is. It's just about being real,
Yeah.
having fun,
Yeah.
and just sharing your story. There's not a lot more to it. But to answer your question, I would just literally be digging into the video piece of it, using your iPhone. Start there. Simple software. A lot of the things that you teach and that you mentor people in doing, and just, man, it's just being real and honest and open about your stuff and your story, and
Yeah.
who let God, do His thing from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my friend and mentor Sean Cannell says, you just got to hit record. You just got to do it. So, listen, I really appreciate John. I mean, I love you. Love your ministry. I love your passion. I love your story. I appreciate you being on here today. And where can people find and connect with you if they want to find out more?
Dude, I appreciate you, and more than you will ever know was the amount of help you've given me, and honestly, what's built in then to the confidence and the comfort. Man, I've got this fly. Do you see that fly on
Yeah,
camera?
yeah, yeah. You
It is
can't get
like
that on a
driving
blog,
me
can you?
crazy, dude.
You can only write
Anyway,
about it.
yeah. Dude, I've never had a fly in this office, and it's like the one time I'm on video with you. So they can connect with us on the YouTube channel, The Father Effect with John Finch. And then we also have the website, thefathereffect.com, and we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, I think, all by the same handle.
Excellent, excellent. Well, John, I really, really appreciate you being here. Remember, there are links in the description to John's YouTube channel. I actually put a link in there as well to the Father Effect movie, and I forgot, but I'll put a link in there to the interview we did the other day. So make sure you take the time to subscribe to his channel and mine as well. Keep in mind, I love to be a resource to help you share your gifts and make an impact in the world with video. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment. Say hey to John. We'll see you next time.
Put the needle on the record.